What's up, everyone? It's Bones here. In today's video, I'll be revisiting the 100 Apple Dragon Synchro deck, but before I begin, if you could happen to click on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons, it would be greatly appreciated, as it goes a long way in supporting the channel and shows me that you like content like this. Clicking on those notification bells would also mean a lot, as they notify you when I upload on the channel. The first combo is going to look sort of like a con for the deck, but I promise that there's more to it than that, as we're going to bring out the blue after we normal summon the 100 Apple Dragon Synchro, and the first thing that you'll find noticeable here is that if we don't go into the gigantic Spright, we are playing into Nib, as I am going to go into the Sprint, and then from here, because we used the blue already, I didn't want to go into the gigantic Spright, and this just helps us make our board bigger, as we are able to make the Herald of the Arclight for an Omni negation at this point. Now we can go into our gigantic Spright, use its effect in order to get ourselves the Shinobi Necro, which this works better with a Bystial in hand, and something I would like to point out is that because you're playing a lot of engines with good generic cards like 100 Apple Dragon and the Assault Synchron, the more cards of each engine that you see, the better your boards will be. But from here, we're then going to use the 100 Apple in the graveyard, bring out the token, and then go into an IP Masquerena, as then we'll be able to set the Spright starter in order to special summon out our blue in the opponent's turn, get ourselves a search for another Spright if you want a discard for the IP Masquerena to go into the Unicorn, but you can also bring out a red or a carrot if you would like to get a negation instead. For this second combo, I'll be using blue plus Assault, and you'll see that it doesn't really change a lot in what you do here. You can normal summon the Assault if you don't want to synchro lock yourself. There is definitely variety that you can take because of the Spright cards. There's Sprint, there's Gigantic, but I'm just going to stick to the synchro approach because that's what I want to focus on in this video, as we're going to get our starter off of our jet, go into our Herald of the Arclight, activate the starter. From here we can bring out the carrot for a second negation. You can obviously wait until your opponent's turn to do that by setting the starter, but this will end up being our end board. Now I want to move out of the 2-card combos and focus more on the 3-card combos, because there's just more that you can do with the other cards from each part of the deck that you play. But we'll start by bringing out the Assault Synchron, bringing out our blue, then using the blue, which will get us into the jet. From here we can then go into our Herald, and now we can normal summon the 100 Apple Dragon, special summon out our jet, and we're protected under the Herald at this point. So now we can just go into our Gigantic, use the Gigantic, which will detach the 100 Apple. From here we can use the 100 Apple, which will get us a token, and then from here we can link away into the Masquerena, as we'll be able to set the Spright starter and end on that. You'll see that the Herald of the Arclight does conflict with Sprint, so that is kind of inconvenient. You should consider this more of an alternative approach that you can take depending on the matchup and stuff like that. For the next one, we have 100 Apple Dragon, Jet, and Magna Hut. I want to show what happened with Jet, and from here we're going to get our Spright starter. We're going to then go into our Herald, as we can now activate the Magna Hut, banishing the Jet. From here we'll then be able to activate the Magna Hut, as we'll use the 100 Apple Dragon now, bring out the token, as now we can synchro away into our Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, activate the Spright starter, which will be able to get us into the blue, and then from here you can use the blue in order to get the carrot. From here you can then special summon the carrot for your extra negation and end on that. You could of course also get the red if you want the extra monster negation, but depending on matchup and format, right now I feel this is what's better. And lastly, I would like to point out that if you're noticing a pattern, it's that for the most part you are sort of playing Spright, but you want the 100 Apple and the Assault Synchron to be small add-ons rather than to become the entire point of the deck where you're just comboing and stuff like that, but I'll get through more of that as the video progresses. Now for this next combo, I will be using the blue, and it's because I want to show that we're just going to be able to do the same thing with it. And we're going to get our jet off of the blue, and then from here you can use the jet in order to get your search, as then from here we'll be able to go into our Herald of the Arclight, activate the Magna Hut, as we'll be able to banish the jet. And do keep in mind that if you went into Sprint, this obviously changes what you can do, as you'll be able to send the Shinobi Necro and stuff like that, but I'm showing the better way to play it in my opinion, where you still want to aim mid-range rather than too combo heavy. So I'm going to get out the carrot off of the starter and then end on that. Now I'm going to get into the test hands early, and it's because the more engines you have, the more you can see about the deck, as the combos are pretty simplistic when you just have 2 cards. And on top of that, in this particular one, I want to talk about the adventure engine a little bit, as there is a reason why I am choosing to show it less, and I do think because we're adding so much cards from the Adventure Engine and the Assault Synchron, you do have to go over 40, especially considering the bricks that it causes when you have your Bystial, your Adventure bricks, and then you also have awkward hands that you can get with going second cards along with Bystials, and then you have like a Spright that doesn't do anything. With that being said, I don't think that the deck is necessarily terrible, and there's probably better ways than you can build it than what I'm showing here, but I still think that this video does a good job in showing the strengths and the weaknesses of both, as we'll be able to bring out the 100 Apple token, then go into our IP Mask Arena, bring out the Magna Hut, and then from here we can use the Magna Hut effect, then activate the Assault Synchron from our hand, and we can go into a Synchro 8 as we'll go into the Axel, then bring back the Assault as we can then go into the Baron. So another thing that you see here is the monster zones do get clogged up pretty quick with the adventure stuff, and I'm not trying to sell people off on it, because of course it's still a big board that you make. You have 3 Omni Negations, along with the IP Mask Arena. You still have the Spright starter, so it's an option that's there. I just happen to like the other version. Now, I want to show a similar hand with the Adventure Engine, as we can just start off by activating the Rite of Aramis here, and this version allows you to just make 100 Apple Dragon a lot easier to summon, as you can summon it from the hand a lot more consistently. But from here we'll then be able to use the effect of the Fateful, as we'll get ourselves the Draco back, and we'll use the 100 Apple Dragon as our plays are now protected. We can then use the Bystial Magna Hut, as we'll then be able to get the search in the end phase off the Magna Hut, bring back our Lubellion, use the Lubellion to get our Branded regained. We'll then go into our Dispatter. We can then use the 100 Apple Dragon, which we won't use the Branded regained. We want to be able to keep the negation for the Dispatter. We'll bring back the Saronir off of the Dispatter, and then from here we have another Synchro 8 play, which I do go into the Omega because we have Assault Synchron. We can just special summon it out, then go into a Synchro 10, and get back our Omega without having to waste too much resources to go into our Baron. And then from there you can put whatever you want back to your deck with the Omega, or you can put something back from your opponent as well. Now, I want to show the test hands of what I believe is the better versions of the deck, and you'll see that we're going to start with the Nimble Beaver. I still am playing that in this build, as we're going to then go into our Sprint. We'll use the Sprint in order to bring out our other Nimble Beavers off of the Angler, and then from here we can start making more plays, as we can then activate our Assault Synchron, go into our Herald if you want to protect your stuff, and we've already used the Sprint, so we don't care about the Herald Floodgate effect now. So we'll use the Gigantic now to bring out the blue. From here we can then activate the blue, which will allow us to get the Jet, and then from here you can activate the Jet, use the Jet in order to get the starter or any other Spright spell trap depending on your situation, and then we can set to and end on that. The cool thing is that we also have our 2 Bystials, and if you would like to, and if you play it, you can also make your Dijin Buster. Now for the final hand, and I want to show off the Spright engine with the 100 Apple and the Assault in a full hand, and from here we're going to normal summon the 100 Apple, bring out the blue, as we'll be able to get the Jet off of the blue, and now we can activate the Assault Synchron, as we're then going to go into our Herald, and then from here we can bring out the Jet, as we're then going to use the Jet effect in order to get ourselves the Spright Smashers. From here we're then going to go into our IP Mask Arena, activate the 100 Apple to get our token. From here we'll set to and end on that. You'll also notice how in this video I was able to make the token IP food, which is really nice for this deck, as it just serves as an extra body / level 2 that you can have for your end board or tribute fodder if you happen to need it for a negation for one of your Spright monsters like Carrot or Red. So with all of the combos out of the way, we can finally get onto the deck profile, and this is kind of what I want to talk about, where the 100 Apple isn't just something that you're throwing in there to throw in there, and it's because of the Bystial stuff and the Assault stuff. You're able to make a more synchro hybrid of the deck while still keeping it a true build of Spright, and that's something that I do like about the deck, because on top of that, the Bystials are just hand traps that go along with your other going second cards, which allows you to keep your opponent pretty honest in regards to what to expect, and knowing that you're going to possibly have stuff to counter their plays. You'll see that I'm still on the Nimble Beaver and the Angler, and I just like it because of Sprint, even though we do have the Shinobi Necro, and even if you happen to draw your 100 Apple plus the Beaver, you can just normal summon the Apple, then use your Spright plays, and then have the Beaver for follow-up, giving you a pretty powerful card to keep for your follow-up turn. The way I like to think about this deck is kind of like the Evil Twin Spright version without the runic stuff. You just have a bunch of Bystial hand traps along with the generic tuners that allow you to make synchro plays instead of going for your live twin extra deck stuff. As for the adventure version of the build, that was over 40, and again, as I said, with the adventure cards along with everything else you're playing in regards to the synchros and everything, and in regards to the tuners and stuff, you do have to go over 40 in my opinion, especially to not make your deck as bricky, considering the Bystials plus the going second cards alone in a Spright deck can be pretty bricky. But then I would also like to point out, because you're over 40, the Lubellion does have merit in playing because you want to see your Bystial still. Outside of the extra deck where you are able to make your Charge Warrior, you also see the Omega here, and I just have that because it is an option if you don't want to use the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. Then I would also like to talk about the Dijin Buster and the Oni Bimaru. These are flex spots. The Dijin Buster will probably stay, but the Oni Bimaru, depending on how you're playing your extra deck, could be a Zeus package instead if you want to commit less space to your synchro stuff. And then you'll see down here you have other options you can play. Fenrir is still a card that applies pressure that you can play going second, even adds to your end board, so that is pretty nice. The Ready Fusion, I just didn't feel like playing because you don't want to give away that precious extra deck slots in a game that always feels like you want more than 15 extra deck cards at times. Limiting that with your Ready Fusion stuff doesn't feel quite right to me. The tuning is another thing that you can play if you would like to. It's just more copies of Assault Synchron. The Cupid Pitch, you can play this also. I just don't want to commit the resources to it. The Cheng Ying, same thing. It's another level 10 that you can play. Something more generic than the Disc Patter as well. As we have the Chaos Angel here, which is still pictureless, and then we have the Scarlight and the Hot Red King Calamity, which you have available, as ending on 2 level 2 tuners is pretty easy, as well as making level 8 synchros through your Bystials along with one of those tuners. Do keep in mind that you are over 40, so it may not be as consistent, though this build does play the Small World, which allows you to more unique bridges. Now, the big difference between this version and the other version I showed before is that this version makes it so that you're playing it more of as a combo deck. If you happen to notice that in the 2 adventure version replays I showed with the test hands, you're just doing more stuff where you're sending the Lubellion with the Saronir, you're getting the Branded Regained, you have the ability to draw one, extend from there, you have your Right, which can also have a token that allows you to get into synchro plays with it. With your generic tuners that you have here, you have the Small World, which kind of bridges you into all that stuff. And for the TCG, I'm just really not feeling it. As compared to the 40 card version, you have what feels like a decent room for flexibility while playing the cards you absolutely have to play. But with all of that out of the way, I'm just going to get onto the card by card, as we have the 3 blues, the 300 Apple, the 3 Assault Synchron, the 3 Beaver, the 2 Angler and the 1 Foolish, the 3 Ash Blossom, the 3 Magna Hut, the 3 Jet, the 1 Red, the 1 Carrot, the 2 Starter, the Shinobi Necro, the 1 Baldrake, the 1 Druis Worm, the 1 Saronir, the 3 Talents, the 1 Smashers, the 1 Double Cross, the 3 Econ, and then onto the extra deck we have the Unicorn, we have the Sprint, the Masquerena, the Herald, the Stardust Axel, the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, which can also be Omega, the Baron, the Disc Patter, the Chaos Angel, which can be Cheng Ying, the Sky Cavalry, the Dijin Buster, the 2 gigantic sprites, along with the Zeus, to round out this deck profile. For the second one, we have the 3 blue, the 3 jet, the 3 assault, the 300, the 2 starter, the 1 carrot, the 1 red, the 3 Magna Hut, the 1 Baldrake, the 1 Saronir, the 1 Druis Worm, the 2 Lubellion, the 1 Branded Regain, the 2 Rite of Aramis-Seer, the 1 Griffin, the 3 Water Enchantress, the 1 Foolish, the 1 Draco, the 1 Fateful Adventure, the 3 Small World, the 1 Smasher, the 1 Double Cross, the 1 Shinobi Necro, the 3 Ash Blossom, the 3 Talents, and the 3 Econ to round out the main deck. Onto the extra deck, we have the Unicorn, the Masquerena, the Spright Sprint, the 2 gigantic Spright, the Dijin Buster along with the Oni Bimaru, the Herald of the Arclight, Coral Dragon, Charge Warrior, Omega, the Stardust Dragon, XL, Baron, and the Disc Patter to round out our deck profiles. Anyways, if you made it this far into the video, I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. It's Bones, signing out.